NFL opening line report, playoff edition. Drew Martin, Teddy Covers, getting you on the right side of some of these moves as we're going through each and every playoff game, telling you where the opening lines are and where they are headed by kickoff with one of, if not the best in the industry, at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. Check them out, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, welcome on in, buddy. Happy Monday morning to you. Welcome to NFL playoff season.
Hey, great to be here, Drew. Great to be here off a perfect weekend in the NFL. It's been a nice run down the stretch for me in the NFL. I'm at 67% counting every play since week 11. So the last 2 months of NFL action have been real good. September was good. It was just, October was just an awful month for me in the NFL. But still 57% full season. I'm not going to complain about that. And obviously with the postseason here, we've got 6 wildcard games to talk about. And then, of course, before the show is over, we're going to talk about season wins, the insanity of yesterday with season wins. And I'll recap what happened with my season win report this year as well. So loaded edition, wildcard weekend. Let's rock and roll.
Let's get after it, TC. We got 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and a Monday nighter as well. AFC, NFC wildcard playoffs here. We're going to go down in rotation order using the WagerTalk live odds screen. First game up, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific on Saturday. It is Cleveland and Houston. We are seeing the Browns, Teddy, -2 in the hook, -3, kind of a split line here, mostly due to in Las Vegas and the global market. But 44 being the total, ticked up from 43.5. Browns at Texans, first game up, playoff round, Teddy.
When it comes to the postseason, I no longer have look-ahead lines to talk about because books didn't post look-ahead lines. You don't know what the matchups are going to be ahead of time. So when I'm breaking down this game, we're going to talk about my powering number, the opening numbers, and where the markets are moving. So my powering number for Browns-Texans, and I thought about this a lot. I spent a fair bit of time with this over the course of the weekend. My numbers pick them on the ballgame. So clearly, I think there's some value on the Texans side with the number being 2.5. The market's opened. Cleveland -1.5/ -2, total 44. We haven't seen much movement on the total, still sitting in that 44 range, but all the early money has come for Cleveland. I'm seeing mostly 2.5s with juice for the Browns right now. I would not be shocked at all if this line is 3 across the board by later in the day, by midweek, by kickoff, whenever. There's some urgency here for Cleveland. In fact, enough urgency perhaps. Dan, let's do it right from the top. If you like Cleveland, look, do it now. 2.5s are there. I don't know they're going to be there. If you like Houston, you wait. If you like Cleveland, you lock in right now. There's going to be another game we're going to talk about later in the show with a very similar circumstance. I don't know for sure this line's going to 3. I wouldn't be shocked if it does, and that's the only way it's likely to move. So if you want the favorite, if you want the road chalk here, Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, that's one to bet sooner rather than later. Not going to hurt you to bet it today. We talk about Cleveland. I mean, they didn't do a whole lot yesterday against Cincinnati. Only their second playoff appearance in the last 21 seasons for this long, morbid franchise. Defensive end Ogbo Oronquo. This is what you work for. These are the days you dream about. Feels good. Put ourselves in position to win the big one. Kevin Stefanski sat at pretty much everyone, in yesterday's game. When you look at these games, it's about what's best for your football team. I knew what this game was, a great opportunity for youngsters to get some reps. It's a Browns team that's playing without their top 3 offensive tackles. Willis, Conklin, Jones, all lost to season-ending knee injuries. The center, Ethan Pokic, has been banged up as well. The running game hasn't been as good since Nick Chubb got hurt. They're still, since Chubb got hurt, they're still 14th in the NFL, 114 rushing yards per game, but not elite in that regard. Kareem Hunt, the O-line's been doing a heck of a job battling for us. And I feel like our running back group has been great. We've been able to rally and do our thing out there, taking advantage of situations that we get and making the most of our opportunity. Joe Flacco's gotten a lot of buzz, and deservedly so. Flacco has been able to do something that many young quarterbacks don't do, which is just air it out, chuck it up, let your guys make plays downfield. And that worked fairly well for the Browns down the stretch against some lesser defenses. Flacco did throw at least one pick in every game. In watching Cleveland, it felt like Flacco had a chance to throw 5 picks in every game. Literally. But it didn't, it didn't play out that way. And the Browns, of course, have had turnover problems all year offensively. They've been able to make up for it because the defense has been able to create takeaways. But the Texans don't turn the ball over a whole lot. Stroud was brilliant. Okay, absolutely brilliant at Indy. 20 of 26, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Of course, they couldn't run the football against Indy. That makes you worry about what happens against an elite defense like the Browns. Nico Collins was their only healthy wide receiver this past week, and he was amazing. 9 catches, 195 yards, and a touchdown. They don't win it without him. They could have Robert Woods and Noah Brown back this week. That's worth paying attention to. We need to talk about rookie quarterbacks in the playoffs. Brock Purdy went 2-1 last year. I'm going to just go to the list since 1986 of all the rookie QBs. Yeah, I tracked this down for you. Mac Jones, he went 0-1. Lamar Jackson lost his first playoff game. Cook for Oakland and Prescott for Dallas went 0-2 combined in 2016. Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Robert Griffin combined to go 1-3 in 2012. TJ Yates won a playoff game against, I think it was against Andy Dalton in 2011. Rookie QBs 1-2 that year. Mark Sanchez went 0-1 in 2009. Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco each won a game, I believe, in 2008, 2-2 that year. Ben Roethlisberger won a game. Sean King for Tampa did not back in 2004. I go on and on. I feel like I'm wasting time here. Bottom line is the rookie QBs to win a playoff game. Purdy, Russell Wilson, TJ Yates, Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Brooks in 1999, John King as well that year. So it's a relatively short list filled with some pretty good QBs, but also has Sanchez and Yates. So it's not like you have to be elite. The DeMeco Ryans after the win yesterday. It wasn't pretty, but it was gritty. We fought and found a way to get it done. You read the quotes out of this team. This team believes in their rookie quarterback. Ryan. CJ doesn't surprise me. We talked about it earlier in the week with CJ being special in these big-time moments when you need it most. To step up and make plays. He's done it time after time throughout the entire year. It's not surprising. That's who he is. Will Anderson. Without Stroud, we don't even accomplish half the things that we have. Man, number 7 has been phenomenal for us. Everyone in this building appreciates having him and is blessed to have him here. We just give all credit to 7. His personality affects everyone in this locker room. His attitude and energy bleed through the whole locker room. It makes everybody want to step up and keep playing better. Brevin Jordan, the tight end. When you got a guy under center that takes command of the whole team, he has an aura about him, that's special. That's the reason. There's a reason why we're going to the playoffs, and a lot of it is because of Stroud. So certainly, Houston, in terms of a character team, every bit as much of a character team as Cleveland has been this year, even though the Browns started 5 QBs this season. I do worry about Flacco's tendency to throw picks against a team that tends to win turnover battles. C.J. Stroud has been remarkable at avoiding mistakes his rookie season. Fascinating game. I don't know how I'm going to bet it. I worry about the Texans' offense working against that elite Cleveland defense. But I know I'm not laying with the Browns. I don't trust Flacco. Good game. One of many.
Good game. Fascinating game, Teddy. Emergency betting alert in the books. You're breaking down rookie NFL quarterbacks and how they're doing. That was where else are you getting this in-depth analysis, guys? Teddy, did you went all the way back to Aaron Brooks? Did you know Aaron Brooks and Michael Vick were cousins?
I did, but I'd forgotten.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
At one point, I knew this.
I always thought that was an interesting tidbit there, guys. But either way, Cleveland, Houston in the books. We got Cleveland -2 in the hook as the emergency betting alert. Who knows if we might get another one here, guys, as we got 2 games on Saturday. Heading to the nightcap, 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific, 143, 144, the rotation number. Miami Dolphins at the Kansas City Chiefs here. We got Chiefs -3 in the hook as the home favorite. 44 being the total. Teddy, we get the Dolphins heading to Arrowhead. What do we think of Dolphins and Chiefs Saturday night?
My powering number, Kansas City -4 over Miami. The market's open 3. and 44 last night. And the threes are pretty much gone right now. It's 3.5. There's even a 4 or 2 starting to pop up for Kansas City. So the money coming for the Chiefs very clearly in early betting action today. We missed, if you wanted Kansas City and you wanted to lay 3, you've missed that. So there's no emergency betting alert here. The numbers are already gone. We talk about Miami. There are certainly some concerns, some major concerns after the loss last night to Buffalo, falling apart in the fourth quarter. The offense not able to move the football at all in the second half of that game against a quality defense. The second time they faced Buffalo this year, the second time that offense hasn't worked. We've seen that offense struggle repeatedly as they step up in class against quality defenses. And say what you want about Kansas City and their offensive issues this year. That defense has been elite from day one. Cashed me another ticket yesterday against the Chargers in a game where they were badly outplayed, start to finish. The defense stuffed LA in the red zone, and they also got a 90-something yard fumble return touchdown. It was the only touchdown of the game. So the fact that Miami's offense showing struggles right now, bad news against KC defensively, and then I think why we're seeing the Chiefs money so far. But look, we saw Hill limp off the field yesterday, Waddle's hurt, and without their elite receiving duo, Miami's not going anywhere. And then you talk about on the defensive end, you lose Phillips, you lose Chubb. We're not talking about second-tier injuries for the Dolphins. We're talking about their best players are really, really banged up. I remember that first meeting between these two teams. I remember it well because I had Kansas City in that game, and they got up to a 21-0 lead, and I'm like, yeah, good. I think it was in Germany.
Yeah.
And then in the second half, Kansas City couldn't do anything against Miami's defense, and Miami was clearly the better team, but they turned the ball over a couple times, and the Chiefs escaped with a 21-14 win. Clients and I were able to cash. You can call it a right side because they got up early, but coming out of that game, I was actually more impressed with Miami. I like their character, and this is certainly a character game for Miami. That being said, Kansas City's been here before, been there, done that. Elite at home in the postseason in the Patrick Mahomes era. And obviously we saw Kansas City team sitting everybody in yesterday's ballgame, which is in sharp contrast to Miami that had to play everybody last night, in an intense game down to the wire. So KC got to sit Mahomes, they got to sit Kelsey, et cetera, et cetera. From an injury standpoint, Rashid Rice, Kadarius Toney both sat yesterday for KC. L'Jarius Sneed sat yesterday at the cornerback position. All those guys should play this coming week, although Justin Ross did get hurt, didn't come back. Not sure he's going to go, but when it comes to receiving depth, Chiefs haven't had great receiving depth all year long. KC at home is going to attract some attention. Miami's injuries are going to attract some attention. Miami's struggle stepping up in class is going to attract some attention. The fact that KC beat him the first time is going to attract some attention. The money's coming for the Chiefs here. Whether we see more than we've already seen, again, 3s have been bet out, 3.5s, really number 4 starting to pop. I don't know that we're going to see more Kansas City money, but I'm pretty confident we're not going to see a whole lot of Miami money between now and kickoff, unless the injury report somehow looks a whole lot better than it did after last night's game.
2 intriguing playoff games on Saturday, leading us into the Sunday slate here, January 14th, full slate of games, 1 o'clock, 4:30, and 8:15 Eastern kicks here. First one up, Teddy covers 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. Pittsburgh Steelers, Buffalo Bills. We're seeing 35.5 as the total. Bills -10 at home. What are we thinking? Steelers at Bills, first game up on Sunday.
So my power number comes up way shorter than this. My power number is a touchdown for this ball game on Buffalo, Pittsburgh. And again, my power number allowed me to bet the Bills last night in Miami. So it's not a situation where I've been way off on these two teams. The markets are giving Buffalo a lot of respect. And this is really an interesting line. Again, my power number is 7. This opened 9.5, 10, and then it got bet down. There were actually some 11s out there at the open. It got bet down initially, 9.5s exclusively last night, and now we're seeing 10s and a couple of 9.5s this morning. So mostly 10 for the Bills. But again, my powering number is a field goal off for this game in favor of Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh did take the very first bets, although it's come back to Buffalo so far this morning. I mean, Mason Rudolph in the rain at Baltimore, 18 of 20. Quote, it was probably the most challenging weather I've had to deal with in my career. Team lost a couple of fumbles. The running game was there and still only gained 4.7 yards per play and needed a late touchdown in order to get here into the postseason, and then needed other teams to lose, Jacksonville in particular, stupid Jaguars, to get in the postseason. So it wasn't a scenario where Pittsburgh was in any kind of locked in. They weren't there. And when you're talking about a team that wasn't there, and you have, and you have the same type of issues that they've had all year in terms of turning yardage into points, which was very much the case for Pittsburgh this past week. That's something of a concern, especially when you step up in defensive class against a Bills team that just shut down Miami. Of course, 3 straight wins to close out the season for Mason Rudolph and company. And, the quotes, Hayward, the defensive tackle, let us be dangerous. We have a formula that's working right now. Hopefully we can get some guys back in the fold. We're not going to discount ourselves. We know we have work to do. We're looking forward to it. Of course, this is a team that's been getting, the hype's been off the couch. The line's been off the couch from Mike Tomlin, talking about the guys. They got Miles Jack, who was sitting on a couch a month ago. Eric Rowe sitting on the couch a month ago. And when you're missing, inside linebackers, Cole Holcomb, Quan Alexander, safety, Minka Fitzpatrick, Keanu Neal, Trenton Thompson, DeMonte Casey, you had a ton of TJ Watt, the latest defender to get hurt for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. That's a lot of defensive injuries. Miles Jack, not unless Lawrence Taylor's got a couple more snaps in him. There aren't too many people like TJ Watt. Certainly from a defensive injury standpoint, Pittsburgh's in some trouble here. And given the inefficiency of the offense, you can understand, and the Bills' success defensively, you can understand why Buffalo has been the early choice for bettors. But of course, the Bills just did what they wanted to do. They rallied from behind. Tough, gritty game to win the AFC East title. In that game, and again, this is the Bills team that were 5-5 in November. They had to struggle just to make the playoffs, 6-1 down the stretch, 5 straight wins to close out the season. Momentum. But even in that win against Miami, the Bills did what they've been doing all year. Take the shotgun, aim it at your foot. Take the shotgun, aim it at they have 3 turnovers in Miami territory. And, they had to stop before halftime, but they didn't get points in. Injuries galore. Secondary really banged up. They were playing backups throughout the secondary yesterday. A punt return kind of saved their season, gave them momentum, all of that. But it's not like Buffalo isn't an injury-riddled squad with a propensity for hurting themselves every bit as much as Pittsburgh. 10. It's not going higher than 10. I really don't. Again, my powering number is 7. The 11s at the openers. No, they didn't last. And even with the betting market support for the Bills in recent weeks, wise guys love this team. This line's not going any higher than it is. If you like the Steelers, it wouldn't hurt to lock in at 10 right now.
First game up on Sunday in the books. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. We'll head to the middle game up next here, guys. 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Big brand matchup here with the Packers and the Cowboys. Green Bay at Dallas, 50.5, 51 being the total. TC, we're seeing -7 in the hook at most shops right now. That's the Dallas Cowboys as the home favorite. Packers at Cowboys here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in just a second. Of course, I forgot to say the lead story of Pittsburgh-Buffalo, which is the under money that's pouring in on this ball game.
The weather.
That total opened as high as 41.5 at Circa here in Vegas. It's 35.5 right now. All right. Other books opened lower, but the bottom line is there's been steady under money for Buffalo, Pittsburgh. Check that weather report. I'm not convinced it's going to be a nice night in Buffalo in January, or a nice afternoon in Buffalo in January next Sunday. But under money flowing on Bills Packers. Talk about the Bills Steelers. Talk about the Packers Cowboys. My powering number only 6.5 on this ball game. Opened 7.5 and has pretty much stayed there. There were 7/7.5 last night. The markets have decided 7.5 is the right number. Total was as low as 49.5 at the open. Now we're seeing 50.5. So we've seen a little bit of Dallas money and a little bit of over money. Jordan Love, brilliant yesterday against Chicago. 27-32 in a meaningful game at home, but a pressure game. 27-32, 300 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He was spot on all night. The running game worked. Aaron Jones ran for 111 yards. The defense was brilliant, 5 sacks on Justin Fields. Worth noting, with a very slow-paced game, the Bears only had 6 drives all games. And they were in Green Bay territory on all 6 of those drives. They settled for 3 field goals, didn't score the other 3 times. That's a testament to Green Bay's defense. And this is the youngest team in the NFL. All right. Love down the stretch, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now he's facing a real good defense. That being said, quarterback Jair Alexander, I said it back in camp, he's the best quarterback in the league. And he's been proving it these last few weeks. Matt LaFleur talking about Jordan Love. He's a tough-minded sucker. His family did a hell of a job raising him just in terms of what he's about. You know me, I like the quotes from the opposing team. This one stood out to me about Green Bay's receiving core. Again, the youngest receiving core in the NFL. Safety, Jaquan Brisker, after the game yesterday. Quote, I feel like we could have tightened up on the receivers a lot more than we did. We gave them too much room. I don't really have no respect for them at all, just to be honest. And certainly, if Green Bay goes down by margin here, it's going to be the receivers who get smothered. And that might be a problem for Jordan Love and company. For Dallas, again, this is now the 3rd year in the postseason in a row, 12-5, the same record for the 3rd straight year. First year, they had 0 playoff wins. They got 1 last year. This year, they're hoping for more than 1. Last year, they lost their season finale against the Commanders. All right? Which kind of sent them to the postseason without that level of confidence. This year, dominant win. They won by 4 touchdowns yesterday. Dak Prescott, quote, look at last year, the way we came into this place and didn't finish the season the way we wanted to where we are now. The growth, the coaching staff, the players, the accountability, the communication, the transparency, and both sides of the ball holding their own. Certainly, this is a confident team. The team with a little bit of swagger. They went 8-0 in Dallas this season. They won 16 consecutive home games. Prescott, we can't lean on that. We need to lean on our preparation. Last year, Prescott led the NFL in interceptions. 23-15 touchdown to interception ratio. This year, 36 touchdowns, only 9 picks. Jerry Jones, he's playing better than I've ever seen him play. And of course, CeeDee Lamb, 13 catches on 13 targets yesterday, an NFL high 135 receptions. Dak Prescott, quote, focus is ahead. Simple as that. I want something better. Micah Parsons, this is a great quote. The regular season is cute. People are like, oh, you played great for a while, but this is legacy. It's always a term of be phenomenal or be forgotten. The quotes around Dallas are right. The hype around Dallas is right. The play around Dallas is right. The opponent for Dallas is right. Can they win by margin? Not something the Cowboys have done a whole lot in recent postseasons.
Setting up to be a Cowboys side here, although the ultimate equalizer, -7 and the hook on the Cowboys. We'll move down the list here. Sunday night, January 14th, LA Rams, Detroit Lions. This is the nightcap, guys, 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific. 51.5 being the total here, Teddy. -3 in the hook. Pretty much across the board. There is some global books with -3 flat. That's the Lions as the favorite. So we get Rams at Lions nightcap on Sunday night, Teddy.
Yeah, my powering number is Lions 3. Opened last night. It was a mixed market last night. There were a couple of 3.5s. It was mostly 3 with juice, 3 -20. I got a tweet from Richie Brooklyn saying, emergency betting alert. If you like LA, take the 3.5s right now, which I didn't disagree with at the time. And yet we're seeing 3.5s across the board this morning. So the Lions have taken or are taking enough money. And we're not seeing the public jumping on the Rams either in this one. Obviously, we have the Mike McCarthy against his former team hype when the Dallas plays Green Bay. This hype, I think, is more meaningful when you talk about Goff versus Stafford. All right. And it's not like these coaching staffs had these particular players. That being said, Sean McVay had Jared Goff. And if you're talking about one coach who spent a lot of time with Jared Goff and decided Goff wasn't the guy, if you give me one coach that might have the game plan to shut down Jared Goff, I would put McVay and his defensive staff high on that list. Of course, it's the first playoff game for the Lions at home in 30 years. Okay. Stafford. Exciting for this team just to get back to where we are right now. To be honest with you, again, this was a 5-win team a year ago. After winning the Super Bowl, that was a disaster. Exciting for this team to get back to where we were, to be honest. The opportunity happens to be in Detroit, which is fun for me on a personal level. Not worried about anything in terms of yesterday's game. Kyle Shanahan. We both knew what this game was for both of us. We both wanted to win, but the first thing was trying to keep our players safe. Right, referring to talking about with the Rams and McVay. I got a concern, and a real concern, about the Rams kicking game. They've missed a league high 16 kicks this season, extra points and field goals. They just waived Lucas Havrasik, brought back Brett Maher, and Brett Maher missed another extra point yesterday. And I'm telling you, in the playoffs, ask the Cowboys, missed extra point goes a long, long way. Worth noting, Stafford, there'll be a lot of stuff beforehand, but a football game is a football game once the ball is snapped. And that's very true. Sean McVay, all the narratives are fun, but this game's going to be about the Lions versus the Rams. McVay's quote, they're excellent in all three phases. Like I said, I'm really excited about Matthew leading us. He's done a great job this year. Proud of this football team. Let's see if we can put together our best game plan, put together a great week of preparation, and then let's see if we can go put it together for all 4 quarters. Let it all hang out and see what the hell happens. I'll take McVay into the game planning over Campbell. If I want a coach to get my team motivated, I want Dan Campbell. They'll bite your kneecaps off. But I want a coach to design a game plan, I want McVay. And of course, Campbell was determined to close out the regular season with a win. Try to get the number 2 seed. What happened? Ended up with the number 3 seed anyway. Yeah, they tied their franchise record with 12 victories, but they lost. Sam Laporta has been enormous for that team, the rookie tight end who's been as good as anyone. And he's hurt. Don't know if he's going to play. Don't know how serious the injury is. Khalif Raymond, their kick returner and receiver, also got hurt in yesterday's game. Amon-Ra St. Brown after the game. Our full intention this week was to play everyone, go out there and win. It's unfortunate. Guys can get hurt every game, but it to be this game, I really hope they're both all right. They'll be playing next week. Lions scored 30-plus in 9 different games this season. That's a franchise record. The Rams defense at times has been real spotty this year. But the Rams do have that Super Bowl, title from 2 years ago. Jared Goff. We were, not that long ago, 3-13, trying to figure things out. And then early on last year, 1-6. And it's still all of those same guys that don't take this for granted and know how big of an opportunity we have here. Fun game. The hook to me, let's put it this way. If I'm playing the Lions, it won't be minus 3.5. 3 maybe. 3.5. I'm not convinced that I would. And certainly when we talk about the Rams running game, that might match up pretty well against Detroit's defense. Leaning towards the dog at first look in this one.
Yeah, Teddy, I agree. Fun game, the quarterback aspect, the switch, Jared Goff, a lot going on here in the Motor City. So a fun one on Sunday night. Huge shout out to the chat box, guys, everybody joining us live. Feel free to fire out any questions in the comments below. Your thoughts, where you agree, where you disagree, all is welcome. Where you're watching from, what you think of the playoffs. Huge shout out to Christian Boyd, Tyrone Boyd, Christian Walsh, Rob Lynch in the house, Paul Blakeney from the other side of the pond in England. Always thanks for joining us each and every Monday, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. We got one game left here on Monday. We'll recap the season wins and then answer any questions at the end. So, Teddy, we got Monday Night Football here, wildcard round of the playoffs. It is the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 8:15 Eastern, 5:15 Pacific, -3. There is some -2.5s out there. That's the Eagles as the road favorite, 44 being the total. So it's Eagles at Buccaneers from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa Bay, Teddy.
Yeah, and I thought about it using an emergency betting alert here because the early money's come for Philly. I'm not seeing the 3s. I'm not seeing enough 3s. It feels like there's resistance at 3. So, look, if you like the Eagles, it's not going to hurt you to get down to 2.5 right now. I don't think this number is going to come back down unless Philly's injury report is ugly, which at this on Monday morning, we don't know. But there's a chance this could go up to 3. I think there's less of a chance it comes down unless Philly's injury report is, again, pretty evil. Now, when it comes to the Eagles, you want to talk about a team that doesn't have much of a betting bandwagon coming to the postseason. That's Philly right now. A complete collapse down the stretch. Division title on the line against a bottom feeder, and they're down 24-0 at halftime. Jalen Hurts, 7 of 16, 55 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick, sacked twice, got benched. And of course, Devonta Smith hurt, Darius Slay didn't play, DeAndre Swift didn't play, Fletcher Cox sat out, A.J. Brown got hurt in the first quarter, Reed Blankenship, the starting guard Cam Jurgens, the safety Sidney Brown all ruled out during the game. Hurts injured the middle finger on his throwing hand, stayed in the game for a little bit, and then when it was 24-0, Sirianni said, I'm going to pull everyone. And he did. That's the same Sirianni who said that the Eagles, quote, would do whatever we need to do to win this game, in part because they wanted to, quote, go into the playoffs not in a rut. Down 24-0, he changed that. We look at the last 2 games. Philly loses at home to Arizona, and then Philly loses to a Giants team with the first place on the line. Maybe the 2 worst losses of the Sirianni era. We read some of the quotes from Philadelphia right now. Dallas Goedert. Ever since, 4 or 5 weeks ago when we clinched the playoffs, I think everyone's just been waiting for the playoffs. Not that that's a great thing, but I think everyone's going to be ready to go. We're going to show the world what we're capable of. Jalen Hurts. It's about how you respond to adversity, and we've got to respond. This is what it is. Right now, regardless of what's going on outside of us, anything external, it's about controlling what we can. I truly believe this team is more than capable of taking advantage of what's in front of us. You got to do the work. You got to do what you need to do. But all you need is a crumb. All you need is an opportunity. Sirianni, quote, everybody is 0-0 going into this week. When you get hit in life, when you get hit in football, you've got 2 options. You can stay down or you can get the F up. And I know this group is fighters. I know this group will get up. I call those positive quotes from Philly, despite their late season collapse. Tampa, the offense averaged just 3.6 yards per play against Carolina, 228 total yards. They went 0 for 3 in the red zone, kicked 3 field goals, but they are in the postseason. The 4th straight year. Baker Mayfield hurt his ankle on Sunday, by the way. That's something to pay attention to. Quote, I can't say enough about our defense. A lot of guys stepped up and made big plays on defense. Offensively, we ran the ball when we needed to. It wasn't a pretty win by any means. There's room for improvement. But now that we're in the playoffs, we're division champs. Let's hit the reset button and go from there. Todd Bowles talking about how the culture has carried over from the Tom Brady era. Quote, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. The guys believe in each other. They never fed into the outside media. We wrote our own narrative. We worked hard. We practiced hard. They got it done. Baker Mayfield, chip on his shoulder. Quote, we got a locker room full of guys comfortable being counted out. It's where we're the most comfortable. All we wanted was a chance to get in, and now we're here. We've got to handle it the right way. Philly beat up on Tampa earlier this year. I think it was a Monday night game. Sunday night game or a Monday night game. 25-11, if memory serves correctly. That final score. Of course, the Eagles were playing much better football in September than they did down the stretch. But Tampa, amongst the postseason teams, my power numbers, the Bucs are the weakest of the group. So, fascinating game to consider on Monday Night Football from a point spread perspective. Again, a couple of threes have popped up. We could see all threes here. Wouldn't shock me. But we haven't seen that move yet. So, if you like Philly, bet the 2.5 now. But run to the window, I don't know that it's that situation on Monday morning. I thought it might be. But from an emergency standpoint, it's not an emergency. Get there, but don't run.
Guys, reminder, fire away any questions quickly in the live chat box, also in the comments below, and we'll answer them on next week's show as we have some good questions here, Teddy, but did want to throw it back to you. I know we wanted to hit NFL season win total recap because it came down to the end with some of these teams, man, so I'll throw it over to you. What did we think season win total was?
Sure. Well, I'll give a quick recap of what happened with me. I had the Packers over 7.5 wins as my 5% big ticket play. Sweat and a half. I thought we were there, and then I was really worried we weren't going to get there, and they finally got there at the end. The schedule was just too easy. Green Bay finishes 9-8, and the clients and I were able to cash that 5% play. We also cashed, and this one is lucky as hell, but it would have been unlucky as hell to lose. I cashed Eagles under 11.5 wins. They were 10-1, and we cashed under 11.5 wins, which tells you don't write this stuff off. Phillies lost to the Giants yesterday. They won so many of those tight games early in the season to go 10-1. I thought for sure, obviously, it was a dead nuts loser, and then they collapsed down the stretch. I'll take it. I ain't giving that money back. And of all the craziness yesterday, Arizona, Seattle, we ended up cashing Seahawks over 8.5 wins. The Matt Prater missed 51-yard field goal attempt cashed Seahawks overs and Arizona unders full season wagers and helped the game land in the middle. And if you hedged and played Seattle money line and or Arizona plus the points, you won those bets as well. So that was a little bit of craziness. I lost with Atlanta over 8.5. Arthur Blank got fired. Arthur Smith got fired. Blank isn't going to get fired. He owns the team. So there's something you feel better about when you lose a season win wager and then your coach gets fired. You're like, good, at least someone had rolled for that. Because Atlanta, they made me, my season wins made me crazier this year than any year that I can remember. They really did. Everything tight. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But Atlanta under, no good. I had the Jags to win the division at -150. That was no good. That was pretty frustrating to watch Jacksonville just collapse down the stretch. They were literally 1 win away the entire back half of the season, and they couldn't get the win. Frustrating to lose that bet. I thought I was going to get there. They finished second at 9-8. And the one was dead wrong from the get-go. And this is, I put my season wins out even earlier last year. I'm like, I got to beat the market. I got to beat the market. I put them out too early. Sanford, had I put them out a little bit later, Sanford would not have been on the under list. Over the summer, the quarterback position looked really problematic for a team lined at 11.5 wins. By September, by October, by August, Purdy was back and everything was fine. But we lost with the 49ers under 11.5 wins. So it ends up being a 3-3 kiss your sister type of year with the win report. I did cash the big ticket. Now 16-4 with those over the lifetime of the report, 80% lifetime with the 5% big tickets. And again, we look at the 20-something year track record, add them all up. I'm 100 wins and 50 losses with 3 pushes. With the season win, 67% long term. But we look at the market as a whole. Look, 32 NFL teams, only 18 of them had win totals that finished more than a game and a half away from their win totals. So that means 14 teams were right there. There have been years where I've seen 2 or 3 teams right there. As a bettor, you don't want bookmakers to post accurate numbers. You want right side opportunities. It wasn't there this year. There were a handful in the NFL that were some right sides. But when it came down to week 18, Drew, in week 18, Arizona, 4.5 wins. Seattle, 8.5 wins. Atlanta, there were 8s out there for Atlanta at the open. The Bills at 11 wins. The Bears, 7.5 wins. The Broncos, 8.5 wins. The Raiders, 7.5 wins. The Jaguars, 9.5 wins. The Eagles, 11.5 wins. The Steelers, 9 wins. All of those down to the wire in week 18, win or lose. Stressful. 10 out of 32 coming down to week 18. That's too many. And again, the books and the markets did a better job pricing win totals in the modern era. And they did 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Something to remember for next year when it comes to these win totals. But look, I'll get out of it. I'll take my 3-3. I'll take the big ticket W and get out of this year with a, I haven't added up all the juice. I imagine it'll be either a small win or a small loss. But basically a kiss your sister type of year. I'll take it. I'll get out of it with that and move on to next year with the win report. So many frustrating games, so many frustrating losses in these contests that when all's said and done, 3-3, not great, but I'll live with it this year. I really will. There was a point yesterday where it looked like it might be worse than that, and that was going to frustrate me even more.
Teddy, no, I mean, you know this market as good as anybody. What, you said 150? So the last 150 plays, 67%. Guys, that almost doesn't exist in sports betting industry, particularly in the NFL, one of the sharper markets, in my opinion, out there. Teddy, I have a follow-up question to kind of kick off, if you will, question time here, NFL opening line report. Do you think that's just coincidence? Do you think the market is actually becoming a more efficient market in the NFL season win
Yes,
total? Is this scaring you going
absolutely.
forward?
The market is definitely more efficient. The 17-game season changes a nuance. And again, when you're looking about teams, we're talking about season win reports, all right, season win bets. You're looking in June and July and August about what these teams are supposed to look like. How many teams look like that now? Your injuries, depth is as important as anything. And it's hard to gauge a team's depth prior to preseason football. In the preseason, you get a feel for this team's got backups. This team's got, this team can't do anything once the starters are off the field. When we look at a team like Cleveland, quality depth there. You look at a team that didn't make the postseason, Cincinnati didn't have the same quality depth that Cleveland did this year. They had too much with a high-priced player. The depth wasn't there. Both teams had lots of injuries. The Browns were able to overcome those injuries because they had the quality depth. So that's something we definitely look for in season wins. And that's something that you can try to smell it in June and July, but that's something you really don't see until teams are actually on the field in August.
Makes sense, Teddy. We do have some good questions here. I guess to start off here. Oh, yeah.
Hang on, Drew. Before we get to the questions, Sagarin strength of schedule for Wildcard weekend. This is something we talk about every year.
Oh, yeah.
Sagarin strength of schedule. Yeah. Don't worry. I got the numbers. And I'll tell you why I think the Sagarin numbers stink. All right. Because I looked at, you know me, I'm going to go through the page before week 18 and after week 18. San Francisco, their strength of schedule was 11. They played a Rams team that's pretty good, and afterwards their strength of schedule was ranked number 14th. That doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. KC's strength of schedule was 21st going into week 18. They played a Chargers team that stunk and had no one playing, and they closed out with a higher strength of schedule. It was only ranked 19th. I don't understand that from the Sagarins. Detroit played Minnesota in week 18. They had the 14th ranked strength of schedule going in. They're playing a Minnesota team down to their 9th quarterback? And all of a sudden, they're ranked 20th in strength of schedule after that win. The Sagarin numbers are random. The Rams played a 49ers team that is sitting everybody. But the Rams' strength of schedule, based on that win, went from 12th to 5th. The Sagarin numbers are crap. My numbers are better. But the Sagarin numbers, what the strength is, and the bad Sagarin numbers basically tell you in the wild card round, take the team with the stronger strength of schedule. The battle-tested teams win. So when it comes to strength, Sagarin's numbers, Cleveland, Houston, I'm just going to run through them. Cleveland 6, Houston 29. System says take Cleveland. Miami, Kansas City. This is strength of schedule. Miami 28, which I don't buy. I'm going to talk about my numbers in a minute. Kansas City 19. So that says take the Chiefs. Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Pittsburgh, number 3. Buffalo, number 23. The Sagarin system says take the Steelers plus the points. Packers and the Cowboys. Green Bay, number 24. Dallas, number 30. The Sagarin system says take Green Bay plus the points. Rams and the Lions. Rams finished number 5. Detroit with the strength of schedule at number 20. And again, they were 12 and 14 going into week 18. I disagreed with both of them, the Sagarin decisions, moves based on it. But the final numbers say Rams are 5, Detroit's 20. It says take LA. And Philly and Tampa Bay. Philly finished 21. Tampa finished 25. Slight lean towards Philly in that regards in terms of strength of schedule. Now, my power rating numbers, of course, I'll just put it to you this way. I go through and make a powering number for every team every week. And what I do at the end of the year is I go through their opponent, the week the game was played, what their powering number was. Did you get the Cardinals with Kyler Murray? Or did you get them with whoever the hell they had playing quarterback at some point after Dobbs left? Did you get Philly when they were rolling in the year? Did you get them when they were tanking down the stretch? Did you get, there's so many. Did you get Joe Burrow for the Cardinal or for the Bengals or not? Did you get the Chargers with Justin Herbert or not? Power ratings change throughout the course of the season. My numbers give, in my opinion, the best strength of schedule info out there. And I'm just going to rank them in terms of toughest to weakest of the playoff teams. If you guys want to write this down, there's probably dumber ideas than that one. But of course, now I've lost where the freaking sheet is. So there we go. All right. In terms of my strength of schedule numbers for these teams, no, I got the wrong one. My apologies. Drew, give me 1 second. Let me get the right stupid thing up.
No problem. I can't wait for that because I do remember, even going back multiple years, guys, the Sagarin kind of theory that Teddy was getting into, particularly when there's 10 slots in between the teams, that has been absolutely money. So I love that kind of first round of the playoffs with the Sagarin. And I think almost using your numbers would even make it more efficient, particularly if they line up, Teddy. I would look to bet that.
So I'm going to give you from weakest to strongest for the 14 playoff teams based on my numbers. And this isn't info you're going to get anywhere else. It's my numbers. Weakest, Houston, then Dallas, then KC, then Green Bay, then Detroit, then Miami, then Tampa, then Buffalo. Now we're getting the tougher ones. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, the Rams, San Francisco, Philadelphia as the toughest opposing schedule. There you have it. Those are based on my powering numbers. Again, I'll do it one more time so I don't have to go back and forth. Houston, Teddy, the weakest.
Teddy, you're going weakest to strongest, just to clarify?
Weakest to strongest.
Okay.
Yes. Houston is the weakest opposing schedule based on all the playoff teams, based on the powering number of their opponent that I had the week the game was played.
Okay.
Houston's the weakest. Dallas, so we'll call them number 14. Dallas is number 13. KC's number 12. Green Bay's number 11. Detroit's number 10. Miami's number 9. Tampa's number 8. Top half, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Baltimore, the LA Rams, San Francisco, and then Philadelphia as the toughest. So again, those are my numbers. You're not going to find those anywhere else. And that's my take. There. Now I can answer some questions.
At Teddy_covers on Twitter, at Drew Martin Bets. If he doesn't tweet it out, I will, guys. So check us out on Twitter at Teddy_covers, at Drew Martin Bets. NFL opening line report each and every Monday. Come back and join us next week, guys. We'll be doing this again in the playoffs. But I do want to answer a couple questions here, Teddy. We have some guys talking about the weather for these games and making some jokes, I think, between yourselves in the live chat, which is totally fine. We actually only have 3 open air games, meaning in Kansas City, we got in Buffalo, and then in Tampa Bay. I'm looking right here, AccuWeather. It looks like Tampa and Kansas City both going to be okay, at least in the projections, but Buffalo looks like snow and wind. So watch that one. We have seen some moves on the total. Teddy, question to you. How much are you factoring in weather? I mean, we're talking on Monday. It's now Sunday, but the market is moving. Does it affect your handicap a lot, or this far out, do you kind of take it with a grain of salt? Also, in my opinion, Teddy, I think it matters where we're talking. Buffalo up in the Northeast, I think it might be a little bit more accurate than, say, hey, a weather projection in Florida, because it changes so much in the South anyway. Interested in your opinion on kind of handicapping the weather in the NFL.
So let me start with this. Did you look at the temperatures in Kansas City? Or just the
okay.
It's supposed to be 0. I saw -10, -20 degree wind chills as the projection in KC. Yeah. So we could have weather this week. Weather, when you get real cold in the postseason, that can be the defining factor of the game. Much more difficult for you to lay points. Certainly lay more than a field goal with the team in bad weather conditions. And there's always there's always a balance. You have one of these scales, right? Earlier in the week, the forecasts are less accurate, but the market's already starting to move. And if you want to get the best of the number, you got to bet this stuff. That said, there are lots of projections for weather forecasts are going to be nasty that by Sunday comes around, it's not quite so nasty. So you can bet early in the week and get locked into a bad, a number, and then it doesn't turn out to be anything like you would have thought, or not nearly what you thought it was going to be. So there's always that balance. Do I bet it now? Do I wait? From a side standpoint, certainly when we talk about warm weather teams in cold weather spots, Miami and Kansas City this week, that's something that you pay attention to. But I don't overreact to that. There are plenty of times we've seen warm weather team play very well in frigid games. It happens. But it's something that the markets will pay attention to. The markets will give KC more credit than they will Miami in that game for dealing with the cold conditions. But I don't like to lay a whole lot of points when it's super cold out. And in terms of your handicap of the game, a lot of times you sit here and then we go through, this is going to play out this way and that's going to play out that way. When you're handicapping these frigid condition games, it's not going to play out anything like what you think it is. It's who can run the rock. If you're going to run the rock, you're going to win. So sometimes you really take the fundamentals down. They're very simple. Which team's going to win the running battle. When it comes to rain and snow and ice and all that kind of thing, obviously you worry about the passing games in that regard. But in general, teams that can run the football should be okay in bad weather, in theory.
Like it, Teddy. Questions here from the chat. Christian Walsh saying, question about the WagerTalk live odds screen. What does O and U mean? Actually, Christian, I could just answer that quickly. Like Miami, Kansas City, 44-0, minus 112. That means minus 112 on the over. A little bit of juice there on the over. And just imagine if there's not an OU there, it's always minus 110. So it would be O minus 112, meaning you'd have to pay a little bit more for that. Whereas if it's under, like it is at another sports book, minus 108, it would be a little bit less juice on that same number. So that's the best way I could explain that. The O and the U on the WagerTalk live odds screen. Rob Lynch asking, what do you all think about money line only for the NFL playoffs, Teddy? And I think he's getting to what there's a Super Bowl trend out there. Just pick the winner. Like the actual point spread hasn't mattered that much over the last, say, decade or so, Teddy. Do you think there's anything, if you want to add anything to the O and U, and do you think there's anything to betting the money line? Is it kind of better value in the playoffs?
No. And actually, the money line on the dog is oftentimes worse value in the playoffs because the playoffs are going to attract more casual bettors. Just like look at the national championship game tonight with Michigan, Washington. All right, how that money line is distorted because the Washington bettors are betting Washington on the money line. The Michigan bettors are more comfortable laying the points. When you're talking about the postseason, we see it every year. There's going to be a game that gets decided on a missed extra point or a weird 2-point conversion or something. It's not like every team that wins covers. I don't argue with the concept of taking some of your dogs on the money line or splitting your wager between taking the points and on the money line. But when you're talking about laying big prices with favorites, you've got 3.5, 7.5, 10-point favorites. So 4 of the 6 playoff games this week, you're talking about laying, if not 2-1 close to it, minus 180 to back the team you want to back. Those, in my mind, it's a little bit pricey to do that. So I tend to, I dance with the one that brung me. I'm a point spread bettor. I stay with point spreads in the postseason primarily. If you're primarily a money line bettor, I wouldn't argue with staying with the money lines this time of the year. But there's going to be a funky game or two this weekend. You'll see some team's going to win and not cover, and that gets real frustrating when you're playing only money.
Love it, Teddy. Guys, we're up against it time-wise, but a huge shout-out to everybody joining us in the live chat. And feel free to comment below, guys. Any questions? We'll have more time with less games on next week, so we'll answer any questions in the comments section. But, Teddy, throw it back to you, man. Any closing thoughts, final thoughts here before we shut it down, heading into the NFL playoffs?
Yeah, so, again, people love the playoffs. People love betting this stuff. Remember, these lines are tight. When you're talking about step-up wagers and increasing your wager size, stay with the units you've been working with all year Just because it's the postseason, that doesn't change. That being said, I do have a 5% big ticket available right now. One of the games we just talked about. I wanted to get down early because I wasn't convinced this line was going to move. That I want to get the best of the numbers. So you can get that right now at WagerTalk.com. And I do want to give out that promo code that we got. That's you have that promo code in front of you for a 3-day all access pass. Drew, I know I sent it over to you. I got it right here. I found it. 3-day all access pass. Real simple. Just use promo code SAVE15 at checkout. Take $15 off any 3-day all access pass. That promo code will be valid all week long. So you can save it for Friday. Get the whole weekend of NFL action if you so choose. Again, promo code SAVE15 at checkout. 3 days, all access. Take $15 off.
5% plays up and available. There's 2 of them for the NFL playoffs from 2 handicappers. You're looking at them, Drew Martin and Teddy Covers, the 2 bringing you the heat here on the NFL opening line report. So go check them both out. WagerTalk.com, 5% NFL playoffs, and save 15 there for the 3-day all access. Save $15 off of your order. For Teddy Covers, I am Drew Martin. Guys, comment below. Please smash that like button. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next week.